I went through this period of trying a bunch of different things and figuring out treatment, and I returned to school and I wrote the first draft of this movie as a school project my senior year, and then became really passionate about trying to tell it once I graduated college. And it took 7 years to get the movie made and develop it. And basically, the stuff about mental illness and bipolar disorder in the movie is all taken from my life and my experience. And pieces of it are fictionalized too. And I drew a lot from a friend of mine, dropped out of school around the same time as me, one of my best friends. And her mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in the same year. And that was a really huge event in that, in her life, of course, and mine. But I think it's really interesting to see different types of illnesses under the same roof and next to each other and in the same family, because usually illnesses or any sort of struggle we go through isn't an isolated thing. It's usually surrounded by other things that other people are going through. I also think there's a really interesting conversation about what's a real illness, and a lot of things that people with mental health problems face is like, because it's invisible, is it often is taken as seriously as some other illnesses. So that was something I wanted to focus on too.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the family. Everyone is a well-rounded character, I feel like, and you feel that they're each going through their own struggles, and you see how they kind of play off each other. So I think that's a lot of what feels so realistic about it. I wonder, we have a lot of people who watch these Q&As who are aspiring filmmakers. So the process of getting that script made, I'm curious about, like, what were some of the bigger challenges? Like, what was the turning point when you felt like, holy shit, maybe we're really gonna do this? Like, it's really gonna happen?
Yeah. Well, it was a pretty long journey. It was most of my 20s, and there was always, like, I never thought it was gonna take 7-8 years. I always thought, it'll be this year, it'll be next year. Like, I always tried to have this attitude that it was right around the corner, and I think that's part of what helped me, like, hold in there. But always making little shorts and just continuing to make stuff, and, like, even making, like, my mental illness memes on Instagram and just stuff like that, like, helped me feel creative and productive, and just kind of kept me going while I had this bigger project hanging over my head. And I think the moment where, like I just think it's so important to just meet as many people as you can for a long time, because eventually you meet the person who introduces you to, like, the person who can help. I mean, if you have a short film, like, go, and you can go to the film festival, like, and try to meet people there, do it. If there's, like, a pitch competition locally, participate or go and try to meet people. I just think expanding your network as much as you can, and definitely, like, so many people I went to school with were so helpful to me, who were my age, especially, like, my friends, because we all made stuff together and just, like, helped each other and kind of came up together. And that's, I think, super important, to look around you and look at your peers, to network as well as, yeah.
Did you always know you were going to play the lead?
Definitely did not intend on playing the lead. I'm not, like, really an actor, or, like, so I did, like, comedy stuff in college, and I'm trying to be better at, like, not being like, well, I'm not an actor, because, like, clearly I acted in this. So I'm not trying to be false modest, but I felt a little out of my depth for sure going into this, and the idea was actually pitched to me by the casting director and the producers, and I said yes because I thought it was right for the movie. I thought that I was right. At the end of the day, I felt that I was a good fit for the part. It is based on me, so that was, like, why I said yes, and it was really tough to do those things together, but it was also I'm really proud of it, really rewarding.
Yeah, so were you actually already auditioning other folks for the part when they brought this to you, or was it at the beginning of the casting process?
This was, like, towards the end of the thing just had, like, a lot of different iterations. So it's like, if we're looking at, like, a 7-year chunk of time, there's been other people attached, there's been other directors attached. It's gone, you know, through the gutters of LA. Just like anyone who will have it has had a piece. And you know, so that's been,
my kind of girl.
Yeah. Totally.
That's great. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about the casting process in general because you have such an incredible cast. I mean, I think it's like every single person is someone that you're like, oh yeah, they're wonderful. I mean, how excited were you to get this cast, and yeah, how did that all work out?
Yeah, it was really intimidating and crazy. I was technically, like, if we're looking at the like last iteration of the movie coming together, I was the first piece. And then, you know, we had to get someone to desire to play my mom. And I was working with a really amazing casting director, Deanna Brigidi. And so we had a casting director, which is like hugely helpful. I mean, I didn't know anyone like personally or how to access people or anything like that by myself. And Jay was the first person we went to. I love her. She's amazing. I loved her in Succession. I thought she was so smart and funny and just like felt like just managed to be all the things at once. And by all the things, I mean like loving but tough and sharp, but also like subtle and just so complicated. And so she was down, and that was really exciting. And then I wanted to involve her in the casting of her husband, the character of Don, who plays Clemence's dad. And like I had some ideas, but I really wanted her to be a part of that. And she suggested Steve because, and I was like, oh, that would be amazing if he would do this, but it's such a small project, and like why the hell would he do it? No offense to myself or the movie, but like. But they had I don't know if anyone here has seen the movie Nancy, but it's an amazing movie that they play a married couple in. And Andrea Riseborough is their daughter. It came out, I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago. Anyway, they knew each other. So she kind of like sent him the script and urged him to do it. And then he took a look at it seriously, and he and I met and we hit it off, and that's kind of how it went down with those guys.
Very cool. So you said it was difficult to be, you know, writer, director, lead. I mean, I kind of can't imagine actually directing some of these scenes and then acting in them because they are obviously like dramatic, heavy. Give us a little taste of what that looked like on set of you kind of switching back and forth and putting on the different hats.
Yeah, it was really... It's a really interesting battle to be like directing your first feature and wanting everyone to see you and respect you and take you seriously, but you're also like getting your wig put on like between every shot, and like, you know, sometimes I'm directing from a walkie and I'm like in the back of a car. Like it was kind of interesting in that way. I think mostly because, and the crew is amazing. I think it was mostly just like I had to really figure out how to simultaneously see myself as a leader and like a comedic participant in the story, which was interesting to balance. But because of these like short films that I kind of mentioned, which were all made with like, you know, no budget in my backyard in Chicago with my friends, like I directed myself in stuff before, and I actually felt kind of comfortable directing from within a scene, partially because I think, you know, the comedy stuff is a big part of that, but it's like you can really make changes to the energy of the performance and the tone and affect things in real time when you're part of it. Whereas when you're standing behind a monitor, I mean, there's so many amazing things about not acting in it, but you have to wait until, you know, you call cut to make any adjustments. So I will say, like, creatively, it was actually, I think, very interesting and good that I did the things, because by having my hand in having written it and directed it and acted in it, when you do have your hand in all these different pots, what I think that helps with is coming up with something that's like cohesive and the voice feels clear and continuous. And I do think that I feel that that in my eyes, this achieves that. Like, it feels like it was made by, you know, a person with like a sort of clear perspective on things. But also, like, we shot at my real high school, and like that's something I did not factor in for how that would affect me, because I knew like acting and directing would be a lot, but going also back to my hometown, and you know, so, a lot of this is based on my life, so these are some like really personal, tough things that I, you know, not to get like too into it, but I hadn't even really processed a lot of it. Like, after I started being treated for bipolar disorder, I sort of like closed this door on the time before that and tried to start over, and was like, I'm gonna be an adult now, and I'm gonna be successful and be healthy and be kind to people, and I'm just gonna change. And so I wasn't really prepared for what it would mean to like re-inhabit that previous chapter. And I think it was really tough, but also really cathartic and important and good.
Yeah, I can imagine, like, were there things, I don't know, like rituals, like habits, like ways that you could kind of take care of yourself while you were doing that, take yourself out of it each night, or, you know, when the project was over, did you find that you were able to do that?
Well, I think actually shaving my head became a really important ritual for me, because it was like I'd get my head shaved every morning, and it was this sort of transition. So every time I have hair in the movie, it's a wig, except the scene where I'm shaving it. That's the only time my real hair's in it. And I think, you know, starting your day, like getting your scalp shaved like to the bone is a interesting portal into like, we're a character now. And then, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, great producers and just great crew who took really good care of me and were just awesome vibes. I just loved everyone who worked on the project. It was really awesome and helpful. And that is what like helped me, you know, for sure get through it and helped make a movie. It's not like I put the whole thing on my back. We all did it together. It was a big team, and couldn't have done it without all those people who are Chicago people largely, and then some people from out of state as well.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I think that what you said about it being clear and continuous is really true, and I think that's especially important for comedy, because it's almost one of those things where once you get too many cooks with comedy, it's like the voice starts to get, I don't know what it is, sort of evaporated, or it kind of gets not so authentic. And I think that, especially with a story like this, I would imagine that there are people who have a lot of opinions about the jokes and what's funny and what shouldn't be funny or something like that. And in my experience, your family and the time you spend dealing with each other's mental illness, mental health issues, physical health issues is tragic and hilarious. And so I wonder just how you were able to kind of like, did you ever get any feedback or notes that you were like, absolutely not? How did you deal with keeping that comedic voice consistent?
Well, Comedy Cooks is another movie that I'm gonna write now that you said that. It is like Cooks. It is like hard to absorb the input that you want to take in and be so respectful. I think that something that for me is like, I always just use like truth as a compass, and that is what I tried to lean on. It's like I tried to find, I mean, my sense of humor and like my taste is rooted in honesty. I'm not as much of like a joke writer. I love a joke, but just my personal sort of voice is more of like the hilarity of just really sort of concise, honest, simple interactions. And I think that when you use that kind of as your North Star, I guess, of like, is this crossing a line? Like, is it respectful? Well, I can can say that like I never want to be making fun of the illness or like what it means to be living with it. It's like it's more just like trying to find levity in the truth of it. So when I've definitely received over the years of like sending my script to people before it was a movie, so much feedback of, I mean, a lot of great feedback too, but I've definitely gotten like comments that are like, this is not respectful. Even now, like there's stuff on the internet. I mean, it's of course there. And I think that that's a totally fair response to have to this though too, because it's like everyone does. My thing is like everyone does experience mental illness, and I mean in this case bipolar disorder very differently. This is like one version of one mental illness and one possible way of treating it. I'm not saying this is like the textbook of how to live with a mental illness or what to do with it. I don't think the movie claims that. And I think what the real message is like, find whatever works for you and your own mental health, whatever that is. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder too about, I hate to bring up gender for some reason. I hate to do it, but like, I mean, I feel
Boo.
like, I know. Well, I'm so sorry.
I'm kidding.
No, it's just, I do feel like when you're writing a story with a lead female character, there is this question always of like likability that doesn't come up so much when there's a flawed male lead. But I wonder if that was something you thought about, if you distinctly tried not to worry about that, if people gave you guff about that ever.
I mean, thank you actually so much for asking that question and bringing this up. It's something that as the movie continues to make it out into the world and more people see it, something I actually am facing like more and more, because when this started, I was writing about a person who is based on myself, and I knew that like I had certain problematic behaviors and tendencies, but over the years, again, people giving me feedback of like, this character is so unlikable. What's up with this woman? Like, she's the worst. I'm like, okay, like this is literally me. And I like, no, but it actually was like really crazy because I did take it very personally at first, and it was really hard. And it's still hard. It's still something where like I see stuff online and I like cringe. It's like hard to not link myself to it, but something that I think is important for any filmmaker to do, especially when you're writing about personal stories, it's like let that fuel you, let it inspire you, and then at a certain point, like, you know, let it go. It's not your story anymore. Or I think it's helpful to see it that way. Like, it was my story, it started as my story, but then it became something else, and now it's a piece of art in the world for people to interpret and enjoy the way they want to. And I think to the unlikable female comment thing, I mean, I get that all the time, and it's like really frustrating, like for real. So I just think often I'll be like, well, there are unlikable people in the world, you know, like when people are like, why is this character so unlikable? I'm like, well, I'm unlikable sometimes, like, you know, that's the world we live in. There are people who like are, you know, stealing clothes and and whatnot. Anyway,
numerous movies,
sure.
Numerous amazing movies about people who are not very likable. Yeah. I mean, it's quite common.
I would say, like, I would hope that people who feel that way, and I do think, you know, for everyone who's like written the movie off like she's too unlikable, I think there are people. There's a strong standing of people who say, I really didn't like her at first, but you know, and that actually I think is maybe one of the most remarkable responses to the movie, and it's really cool to see people have, because it's of course awesome when people are rooting for her the entire time, and like it's like nothing but fun, and when we, you know, but I think if you can sort of gain empathy for this character in real time while you're watching the story, just as she as a character is gaining empathy, you know, in her life, I think that's really really amazing. And, you know, I would hope that people, if they stick it out and watch till the end, do feel that, yeah, maybe this person started off as like really unsavory and problematic, but they grew a little bit, hopefully. You know, they gained a little self-awareness, they gained a little empathy, and like, you know, that we should have empathy like that for other people in real life.
Absolutely. I'm trying to keep it, you know, to a concise amount of time, but I have a lot of thoughts on everything you're saying. It's very interesting. I want to pivot before we go to one thing which I learned today from looking at Alex's website, which is that she makes incredible miniatures, and I love miniatures, and I would just love to know, if you don't mind sharing, if you want to keep it a secret, you should take it off your website. But if you if you don't want to talk about it.
I actually told her to say this, and I'm like, no, I didn't. No.
When did you start doing this? And
holy shit.
What does it make you feel?
Okay, wow. I honestly did not see that coming. I know it probably looks like I planted that question, but I didn't. It's just, yes, I am building a dollhouse in my apartment, and I am mentally fine. No, I think, well, I've been doing it for a while, but I'll say, to tie it to this, is that as a creative person, like, once you say, you know, I love to write, I want to try to be a professional screenwriter or whatever, it's helpful to find, like, as soon as you try to turn that passion into a job, that thing changes. And I'm sure the other artists and filmmakers in the audience like will know what I'm talking about, is like, you still love it, you still like love writing or directing or whatever, or acting, but now it's also a job, it's also something you're monetizing, which really changes things. I encourage people, if you're into that sort of thing, as I have done, to find other creative projects that you're not trying to monetize, and that you do for yourself and that you do for fun, because there is like a true joy in that, and it's been really great for me. And also, like, the movie shows, like, I have a bit of a tremor in my hand that comes from taking lithium, as I've been doing for 12 years, and so making really small things has helped me with that. Yeah.
So there's not a stop motion movie coming, is what you're saying?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, I don't want to try to monetize.
Okay, who here is ready for the stop motion mental illness comedy? No.
Everyone
And it's a musical.
Everybody wants that. Everybody wants that. No, please don't, I agree with you. I think it's good to have multiple creative outlets for different things. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I'm sure that there's many more questions, and if you feel like sticking around and talking to people, please do. But
thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you all for being here.